Welcome to Tamer Bowling Video Ball Reviews.
We need your support, so if you like what we do, please support us by joining our Patreon page.
Visit our partner pureatbowling.com and use the special code TAMER when making a purchase to be entered into a monthly drawing. I want to thank Limerick Bowl for their support. If you're in the area, don't forget to visit Limerick Bowl in Limerick, Pennsylvania. Today we have for you the Ebonite Choice Solid. We're testing on a 40-foot medium house shot and a 40-foot Kegel Abbey Road pattern. First impressions, this is another huge ball, super strong, and the colors remind me of another huge ball from the Lightning brand. Well, regardless, this is what you expect from a huge ASIM. For value, we gave it a C+. I'm generally not very generous when it comes to solid ASIMs, and my first thought is always how often do these big pieces get to be used on house shots versus how much they cost. I was probably too hard on the original Choice Hybrid, to be honest. Different bowler styles do benefit from these balls that just dig in and roll heavy. Overall on house shot, we gave the Choice Solid a C. On sport shot, we gave it a B+. The Choice Solid simply puts on snow tires. It is meant to cover heavy oil and preferably not crazy open angles. As with almost all big ASIM pieces, they're designed to control the mid lane and give you definitive motion down lane. If you've ever bowled on something where you weren't sure if your medium ball was going to hook or not, that's when these big pieces come out. In those situations, they give you confidence. I always prefer to see motion and adjust than to see little motion and have to finesse it to work. On the house, this just feels like too much ball. The Choice Solid digs in, but also seems to bleed a bit too much energy, but you also can't get very deep to find more oil as the core rolls pretty forward. Now don't get me wrong, I actually really like this core. I think it's fantastic in the Choice Pro and the original Choice Hybrid. The Mod 1 core rolls heavy and a little more forward, at least in the GSV1 cover iterations we've seen thus far. All that means is that if you want to see that awesome hit of this core, keep the angles a bit more closed. Don't try to cover a million boards. Still, the biggest issue I had was feeling like the ball wants to go, but never quite feels like it just hooks up. By contrast, the Choice more definitively felt like it did that, and that is likely due to some pearl in the cover, even though it's finished at 2000 Aberlon. I won't keep repeating myself with each bowler since it's pretty similar on the house shot. Bryan did see some good angularity from it. His assessment was that to his eyes, it was better than other solid ASIMs for him, as he could get in without feeling like it will just puke. And I can agree with that to some extent. It all depends on what you consider deep for your individual game. Bryan, in fact, was a couple boards deeper than me, and he did see a sharper setting motion. Now, James is only a couple boards deeper, so you can pretty much gather the limit of angularity the ball will want to generate. Digging cover, forward rolling core, missing out is also a bit too soft for that reason. It's also quite strong, so if you miss in, it's not likely to hold. On the sport shot, the 40-foot Kegel Abbey Road pattern, I had a better look here than on the house. It gave me more breakpoint control. And here's where you see a couple shots that really drive. When the core has a chance to stand up, this thing really carries well. Again, open up the angles a touch, you miss out a touch, and you can forget about getting to the pocket. The pocket was somewhat shrunk for James. The issue is that Abbey Road is a medium volume pattern, and it does hook. So using a big piece here felt a little out of its element. He needed angle through the fronts with this ball, which meant his breakpoint was really tight. He really couldn't miss in or out and effectively get to the pocket. And finally, Bryan, and it's kind of the same. The ball felt a bit labored due to not having enough volume, so pocket shots deflected, leaving corners, but he still couldn't miss in. Final thoughts, honestly, this is a classic case of, clearly the ball will look better on heavier volumes, but we try to stay consistent with our house shot pattern, and thus we felt the ball's just too much for this pattern. It wasn't too much in the sense that it overhooks. It just winds up tricky to match up the angles through the fronts to the angle it wants to generate on the back. In the end, find the pattern where you can close down your angles and you'll be rewarded for that strong heavy drive of this ball. I really do enjoy the Mod 1 core, and I expect this ball to look really good in those situations where such a beast is called for.
อันนี้ตั้งแต่อยู่ตัวแต่มันเปิดเองว่ารีวิว